You're being moved by the president's orders.
You who also have not seen the evidence are claiming he's not a security risk. This whole you and Landry thing has never made much sense to me, but I think maybe it's starting to right now. Holy shit. Well, I knew better than to trust you.
Super 6-8, there is smoke coming from the top of your rotor. I advise you to come out now.
Have your crew step out or we will kill you.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's a serious guy in the movies. He's the most lovely guy in real life. Please give a huge welcome to my good friend, Glenn Morshower.
People are amazed. I've made movies for 45 years, and both Andrew and Chris are dear friends of mine, and people are amazed because they often think that I'm from the States, which I am. In fact, I'm born and raised in Texas, and so this is my actual voice. That was just a little wink to Chris and Andrew. We make our living changing our voices, and it's kind of a fun thing we do. So I told you that would be for you, my friend. So years ago when they told me the SAM event, I thought I was going to be asked to talk about sex and money, which was really weird. And we can go there if you wish. In the first SAM event 7 years ago, I wound up speaking about spirit, attitude, and mindset. But today, my talk is about synchronicity accelerating manifestation.
Nice.
You good with that?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any fancy catchphrases. You will not have to look at any PowerPoint presentation because I don't have one. In fact, my heart is my chart. I really, really trust that. And it's interesting, I won't ask you to do this because frankly, I want to let you alone. You've been so kind to sit and wait through 2 days for me to get to the stage, and it's been a wonderful event. So thank you for you hardcore. I mean, really. But it's so interesting that when I've traveled all over the world as a speaker, I discovered that this is actually the greatest love of my life. Making movies is not. I love it. Enjoy doing television shows. I run on 24 for 7 years. It was the greatest gift an actor could ever have. There's no question, and it has opened up every door there is worldwide. Here's what I want to talk about right now, which is what your greatest asset is. Everyone, I'm assuming, knows what your greatest asset is, which is you, of course, but there's a but here. There's a however. It's not just you, it's an awakened you. I want to say that again, an awakened you. Every day of our lives deserves us waking up not once, but rather twice. We wake up in the morning when we open our eyes, but then at some point in the day, and sooner than later is a really good idea, we have to become conscious and aware of all that is beautiful about the world we live in. Metaphysics teaches us that what we train our attention on expands. In other words, what we focus on increases, or a great way to remember this is if you tell it, you swell it. Now, I was born and raised in Texas, and I just want to tell you this one quick thing about Texas. Every single person in my family sounds like this. They whistle on their S's. Even my mother sounds like this, only her voice is a little deeper than this. And all of the comedy that I've done over the years and so forth has come from the news. I'm going to give you one example of this. Years ago, there was a news story in the Houston Chronicle. And it was about an incident, that's the way they pronounced it, that happened in McAllen, Texas, where a train had jumped the track, gone airborne, went up over an embankment and plowed through the ballroom of a Ramada Inn, injured 20 people, and killed 5. And the Houston Chronicle reported that incident in this way. They said, and I quote, "It appeared that most of the guests were caught by surprise."
You think?
Most of them. Not all of them. So according to the Chronicle, apparently they felt If somebody had gotten up that morning and turned to their beloved and said, you know what, Myrtle, I wouldn't be a bit damn surprised if a locomotive doesn't drop on our heads today. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to tell you something. If a locomotive comes through that back wall while I'm speaking, you're fixing to see me poop my shorts right in front of your mind. Listen up, if you are not surprised when a locomotive plows through the ballroom where you are celebrating a wedding, you are one difficult son of a gun to impress. That's just the truth. So years ago, I developed an audition mastery course called The Extra Mile, which was all about, this is the quickest way I know how to say this, inhabiting moments fully. Every waking moment in your life. And this course was very successful. It was based on the fact, and this is why I think I'm a good person to teach marketing, because in our business, we are the very product we sell as actors. So how do we get ourselves sold? I personally don't hold the belief that it occurs through trickery or that it occurs through manipulation. I think it occurs from being real and only that there is no other way. Because it's interesting, bullshit has an aroma to it. Have you noticed that? I've never seen bullshit smell sweet. I've never seen that. And so I teach my students what it means to become a chronic celebrator of life. Dr. David Hawkins broke down life better than anyone I've ever said when he listed in his book, he talked about, and this is Power versus Force, the book, he talked about two categories that every choice we make falls into, either contribution or contamination. It's easy to remember, they both start with C, they both start with C-O-N, and yes, that is worth writing down. Because if you ever want to know why you feel as you do, whether that's extremely jubilant or for whatever reason you're walking around feeling depressed, you can see why you feel as you do by putting it on paper and by listing your contributions to your life on the left and your contaminations to your life on the right-hand side. The only rules here, you have to be rigorously honest about it. And you will see it on paper, and then it will explain things. And in order to have life start working better, what happens is we begin practicing reduction therapy in the contamination department. Things that are not in our best interests, we begin systematically removing them. And then in an ideal world, we replace each one we remove by a contribution. That's how you accelerate manifestation. Manifestation is, it really does work this way. We start with the end game in mind. This is not my I happen to believe it, but I didn't create this. This is a widely known thing with regard to manifestation, but you start with the vision in mind. Can you imagine trying to get a ticket on an airline that's called Hey Anywhere Airways? Like they don't have a destination. Could you imagine you walk up to the table or you walk up to the counter and the person says, where would you like to go? And you go, I don't know. And they go, well, we're your airline for that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't sell any tickets because you have to at least have in mind where it is you want to go. I was crystal clear when I moved to LA. I was 18 years old. I just turned 60 about 3 months ago. And 2 weeks after I turned 60 years old, my brother, my one and only sibling, dropped dead at age 62.
Wow.
On the 12th of March. We were inseparably close. And I'm really grateful that I have zero regrets with regard to our relationship and how we lived our lives with one another. Here's another interesting thing about everything coming down to our opinion. So for example, I happen to think March 12th is a wonderful day. I think a lot of people might decide, man, that was an ugly day. No, actually it wasn't an ugly day. It was simply the day my brother died. Let me tell you what else it was. It was a day where someone scratched a winning lottery ticket. It was a day when someone got married. It was a day when someone lost their virginity and loved it. That's what March 12th was. And next year on March 12th, I intend to raise a toast to my brother's life. I miss you, Brian, intensely. But I know that every day is a wonderful day. And for me, the secret to life is to become a chronic celebrator. First, not afterward. In other words, this is a condition that has existed within me since we had a saying in Texas. The saying was, since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. When I was a little boy, I began celebrating the intrinsic goodness of life. Does that mean I don't recognize that hard times are out there? Sure I do. It's just not where I choose to place my attention. I frankly, and I'm not going to get political, I can't even believe we're still at war in 2019. That we as a people have awakened more than that. I can't believe that when, in order to get people to comply with us, we think the answer is to drop bombs on their heads. That's unimaginable to me, and it means that we don't yet recognize that every single one of us in this room and in the world are brothers and sisters, period. Period. There's no other discussion. And I had someone tell me earlier today they want me to run for office with that attitude. So who knows? I mean, Donald Trump pulled it off, so why not Aaron Pierce for 24? That being said, I want to tell you a little story about my sensitivity because I really attribute the success that I've encountered, which could almost be described as unfair. Keyword there, almost. I don't think of it as unfair. But, I've been blessed to be on so many hits, and currently, how many of you out there have seen our show? We have a show we do for Fox, also Fox Television, called The Resident, which is on Monday nights. Thank you for watching. We just got renewed for our third season, and I play the star's father, who is a billionaire, and it's a lot of fun to work on that show. Matt Zuckery, the star of our series, is the most enjoyable actor I've ever worked with, right up there with Kiefer Sutherland, who's the most generous man I've ever known in my life. I just saw Kiefer last week in Fort Worth. He was there with his band. How many of you know Kiefer has a band? They're wonderful. Kiefer's a really, really good singer. But I'm going to tell you a quick story, and I'm talking fast because I want to get this all in. I want to tell you the story of something that happened to me in Salt Lake City many years ago in October of 2000, and it was right before we started shooting 24. I was doing a series that year called CSI. It was CSI's very first year, and I played the sheriff on that show for the whole first season. Some of it we shot right here in Las Vegas. The story takes place in Las Vegas. Let me know if at any point you would like me to continue this in a different dialect. We can change and go Sometimes people are going to know about this. They cuando caliente se porque mis hijos le invitan a comer el chico que van que I mean I can do like this. It's not a problem for me. I don't know you don't understand, but it's a possibility for me. So we were doing this in Las Vegas. And but right before we started it, I was doing a speaking event and then shooting a television show in Salt Lake City. And when I went to my hotel room 923, in this beautiful hotel in downtown, and I walked in and I had a roommate, and that roommate was a goldfish. Now what I'm about to tell you is not embellished at all. This is what happened. I thought, I don't know anyone in Salt Lake City. I want to get to know my roommate. And after all, I've traveled all over the world. I've never had a goldfish in my room. Have you? Has anybody ever goldfish in your room? It was a first for me, and I thought we should get to know each other. And I asked him, again, none of this is embellished, and you're going to probably question my sanity, and I'm okay with that. But I looked into the glass that he was swimming around in, and I said, is it all right if I call you Gil? Out loud, I asked this. I didn't just think it. And he offered no resistance, so I took that as a yes. Now I say he, I want to make sure you understand, I was not examining his genitalia to verify. There's just something that seemed to be intrinsically male about him. But as he was swimming around in a circle, I thought, my God, look at your existence. You were swimming around in a little 6-inch glass bowl, and your whole world is gravel, water, some fish food sprinkled on the top, and a little bitty castle right in the middle. And so you're swimming around that, and with each loop, it's like, oh, look, a castle. Oh, look, a castle. Oh, look, it's still a castle. So I thought, and my life, on the other hand, I woke up in Burbank, California that morning, had a limousine pick me up, take me to Burbank Airport, where I went inside, entered a cylinder, a metallic cylinder, which traveled at 550 miles per hour, and dropped my red-headed butt off in Salt Lake City, where another limo picked me up, took me to the hotel. I signed in and went up the elevator, and now I'm here, and we're having this encounter. And same. And I thought, dude, I'm the right guy to interrupt the pattern of your life. So here's what I did.
Oh no.
I went and took his bowl, I took his bowl after staring at him for a while and thinking, we need to expand your horizons. So I walked him into the bathroom.
No.
And I took my hand and I filled the tub. I didn't dump the bowl, I just filled the tub, made sure it was approximately the same temperature, dipping back and forth between the water and the tub. And then finally, when it was filled, I put Gil into the center of the tub. What do you think he did? Here's what he did. He looked left and right, but he remained stationary for about a minute. And then the familiar loop began. And I thought, wow, this is an incredible lesson. He's completely unaware that there are no limitations.
Right.
Like, he's so accustomed to that pattern swimming that he's staying in it despite the absence of the glass. Oh, wow, how human is this story, right? So I lovingly reached in and started just gently maneuvering, him so that the circle would get wider and wider and wider, and then eventually he made it out to the wall. And I thought, that's enough training for today. I don't push my luck, so I went and put him back in the bowl, and then I did it the next night and the next night. And it was on night number 3 that my new friend Gil discovered the art of the straightaway. Think about it, he never experienced it before, and then all of a sudden he's like, this, right? And then this again. And he's all over the place going, this appeared to be orgasmically satisfying to him. I've never done anything like this. And he's back and forth, and it's awesome. And I'm feeling like the facilitator of all of it. Right? It feels beautiful. I got so aroused watching Gil circle that tub full speed that I ripped off all of my clothes and got in the tub.
No,
with
you
him.
did not.
Now,
No, you did
this
not.
fish is looping around, and here's what he's doing. Oh my God, a new castle. A new castle. Oh my God, a 50-year-old shriveled up 200-pound castle. And I'm loving it. Now, we went swimming every single night. None of this is a joke. This is the kook that I joyfully admit myself to be in. Here's the deal. Wait, all the story's just getting ready to get really good. So I'm there 9 nights. I got so much ground to cover. I'm just going to race through this. I'm there 9 nights. And on that 10th day, it was time to go home. See, you're already involved. Guess what? You're involved secondarily. Think about how involved I was. So now I look over at my buddy in the bowl. And I'm thinking, this is great. And simultaneously, it sucks. Because here's what I know. No one will ever take you for a swim in the newfound Olympic pool again. Which means you're now relegated to the old environment. You're stuck. You want to go for one more swim? And I picked him up and we walked toward the bathtub, and it was daytime, and as he was bouncing in the water, it was like, Glenn, we don't usually do this in the day. This is usually a nighttime activity. And we got into the tub, and we did it. I dropped him in there. He was so completely trained, I didn't have to do anything. Dropped him into the center, straight to the edge, round and round and round and round. And I got in with him, and this is the man I am, and it's no doubt the reason I went into performing arts. I started crying. I cried because I was seriously, emotionally involved. And I looked at him and I thought, I feel great and I feel terrible. And that's why 20 minutes later, when it was checkout time, I was downstairs with my luggage in one hand and Gil in the other. And I told the person, we'd gotten to know each other, first name basis, I said, I know a lot of people steal your towels. But I'm going to take your goldfish. His name is Gil. I've named him. We've been up swimming in room 923. 9 straight nights in the bathtub. And she goes, you have to hear the sound. She goes, aw. She goes, that's adorable. And you want to take him with you? I said, how can I leave him here? He's going to get stuck in the bowl. So we went and bought a big aquarium and put him in that aquarium, and that aquarium was 6 inches longer than the bathtub in which he had trained. And we went and got him friends. Okay, so why did I tell you that? And it takes time to tell you, but it sets the stage for sensitivity and awareness that looks beyond one's own belly button. Look and examine what someone else's experience of this moment is. And I want to tell you, when you've had a dysfunctional upbringing, and I did, extremely, there are 2 ways it can go, and the one I want to tell you about is the seldom traveled way, which is that when things are ugly, and they were, instead of going to therapy over it, and instead of thinking your whole life about the shitty childhood you had, I want to give you a different spin to consider. And that is to go back in time and look at those people who you've spent years perceiving to be enemies or people who harmed you. And I want you to instead flip the pancake of consciousness over and realize that these people actually did you what I would label as an unintentional favor. I'm not saying it was intentional. I don't mean that they meant you well. But what they did is they provided you with an absolutely perfect roadmap of exactly how not to do life. They showed you exactly how not to do it. And if you pay attention to that, then you can thank them for their piss-poor example and get on with living from love. It really works. And that realization is a whole lot cheaper than therapy. I'm not poo-pooing therapy, it's beautiful, but recounting the stories over and over again are not what get you well. Just be thankful to people who have shown you how to do it, and be thankful for the people who have shown you how not to do it. Let me look at my time. Wow. Okay. So I've got to give you my biggest secret. I got to give you my biggest secret in a minute and a half, which is when I go on meetings, actors notoriously get nervous. How many of you have ever been nervous on a job interview? Okay, so I listen to them whisper. I'll do a whole talk sometime. Real quickly, my email address is chifighter@AOL.com. Yes, there are 5 of us left in the nation. CHI.
1 second. So we were watching the timer because this is the story we really wanted you to tell.
So I don't have to
No.
rush.
If you don't mind, do you mind if we take a minute? The story is amazing.
This is the story
Okay.
that
Okay.
has made you famous. So,
Okay.
so take it.
Appreciate
All right.
it.
Relax. Are you enjoying
Yay!
playing?
Yes!
Could you listen to Glenn for a lot longer?
Regarding the very gift, yes.
Sorry, I was just saying, could you listen to Glenn for a lot longer?
Yes!
So entertaining.
So regarding the businesses that you're all in, just know this. Bottom line, they're not buying your product. They're buying you. And they're buying an awakened you. People check in. Do you know a casting director? I'm going to get to the story. The casting directors in our business have made this abundantly clear. I own 3 workshops, Dallas, Los Angeles, and Salt Lake City. I teach 5 classes a week. I travel like a pinball and love it. I love it. Don't need to do it, want to do it. My soul craves it. I love teaching people to do what I do for a living. So the story that they want me to tell is this. I believe that you want to unlock your life, you got to start valuing your whispers. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that internal voice that knows. By the way, it doesn't think. It knows. It knows what's going on. It knows the right, correct move. It knows exactly where you are, and that's why people say, I knew it. Yeah, you did, and you didn't listen to it. The truth is you did know it, right? Because we all know it. We all know it. I could ask for a show of people and ask you, how good are you at manifesting? Do you consider yourself to be a manifester? And the answer is, every one of you are great at it. You just might not be manifesting the results you're after. Right? You're still manifesting. I'll promise you're manifesting, and you're manifesting by using the recipes you currently use. So would you not think it to be absurd if I wanted brownies and instead used a pineapple upside down cake recipe? That doesn't make brownies. Right? So it's that simple. It's formulaic. Look at the outcomes. Start from the end. Get a blueprint. Get a recipe. Ask people who are doing the thing you want to do. Find out what belongs in the oven and what doesn't. And by the way, the oven is your consciousness. Notice it even tells you to preheat it to 375. It doesn't say preheat it to 85. Now, would your brownies cook in an 85-degree oven? Yes, they would, but you would be dead before they were done. Okay? So consciousness is what cooks the cookies, and here's a demonstration of consciousness. This is the story they wanted me to tell. So I am walking out the door. This is many years ago, my first series regular role on ABC for a sitcom, and I need to be funny. Now, there's a character that I did. It looked like this. And he, over the years, I don't know how well you can see it, but over the years, he's made me a whole bunch of money. And he's got a weird laugh he does at the end of things like this. And it's really, really weird. And I knew what I was going to do to win this role, but as I was walking out the door, I got a whisper. And the whisper said, I'm gonna tell you what it said. I started back inside, and my wife said, I've been married 40 years, by the way. We broke every rule in the book. We married at 19 and 18. So,
Nice.
she's my high school sweetheart. We used to play doctor together when we were kids. Kids, 7 and 6. And it wasn't even dirty. It was called, I'll show you mine if you show me yours. That's all it was. And we went 9 years, didn't see each other. I got a whisper to call Carolyn. I acted on that whisper. 9 years, 0 contact. And when I saw her, I asked her if she wanted to pick right up where we left off. And it worked great. So now here's the deal. I go out the door, I come back in, and she says, "You forget something?" I said, "No, I just got a whisper." She said, "What was your whisper?" And I said, "I just heard that apparently I'm supposed to go to ABC with my shoes full of syrup." And here's how wonderful my wife is. She didn't say, "Glenn, are you unwell?" She didn't say that. What she said was, "Honey, did you want Aunt Jemima or Log Cabin?" Right back to the kitchen, got both types of syrup, and we sat on the kitchen floor filling my shoes. Folks, did I say a few drops? Not a few drops. We filled them. Filled them. Where my shoes were swimming in syrup. It is humanly impossible, dear brothers and sisters, to be nervous or screw up a meeting when you're an adult person whose shoes are full of syrup. You cannot blow it. You want a sales and marketing tip? Go fill your friggin' shoes with syrup. It'll be any strategy you've learned about from anyone ever. Okay? So I got the series. I got it. And what was hilarious was the moment they were hit by the waft. The waft as it accompanied me when I walked into the room, and the producers were like, no idea that the source was the actor. No idea. What actor walks around smelling like a maple tree? So it was wonderful. And I booked it, and then after 2 weeks we were done shooting, and I was after another role. Went out, and I thought, this time I'm going to put little baby marshmallows between my toes. Which I did, along with syrup, and booked the job. That's 2 in a row. That's very rare in show business where you read book. Let me cut to the chase in the interest of time. I did it again on job 3, again on job 4, booked both of those, and tied a 30-year standing record. I'm not bragging. I'm sharing a very, very rare, powerful secret called playing as an adult. Booked all 4 in a row, and my agency called me and said, "Do you know you just tied a 30-year standing record? And we've got an appointment for you tomorrow." So I thought, wow, if it works this well in my shoes.
Oh my God.
Where else might I want to begin placing things? And I walked in, hand to God. I walked in, and right before the meeting, out in my car, I took a piece of Oscar Mayer bologna. I folded it in half, which forms a semicircle, and wedged it right between my butt cheeks. Now, if you look at the anatomy of the human ass, bologna fits not well, it fits perfectly. Perfectly. And it was wedged in there, and I just walked in there on clouds. I made sure to just hold it in and just grinning. And I got the job and broke the record. Let me wrap this up by telling you that. I broke the record. Let me tell you that I also booked that one, which was 5. The next one, 6, 7, 8. The streak stopped at 9 because I was out of friggin' room. Folks, try it. I know there are those of you who will judge it, and here's my last line. I started giving seminars about how to win through food products in your undershorts. I'm not joking, for real. It works. It reminds you to play. Look, my friends, the dance here on planet Earth is brief. Live with your heart wide open and play. So a student took my training. He had been in LA 5 years. He had been on 90 calls, never even had a callback. Never even had a callback. And he said, "Glenn, I'm getting ready to move back home next week." And someone said, "Don't leave yet until you take this guy's seminar on audition mastery." And he did it, and he said, I'm going to accept the challenge. And I gave him my contact number. I said, "I want you to call me after your next interview." Well, he did, and his voice was shaking. And he said, "Bud, I just got through with my very first meeting where I got a callback. And I did what you said." I said, "Fantastic." And he goes, "Oh, it's even more fantastic than that." He said, "The callback was this morning, and I just got the call to give me a job. He said, Glenn, I have done transcendental meditation. I've got 5 Shakespearean monologues memorized. I've taken Meisner. I've taken every technique there is to relax. And friggin' food in the undershorts changed everything. I said, don't leave me hanging. What did you do? He said, do you promise you won't judge me? I said, I'm not going to judge you. This whole thing's my idea anyway. He said, Glenn, I'm an adult male, but I got to tell you, I took an actual handful of Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, put them in my butt cheeks, and flexed. Said, you ever done that? And I said, nope. No, somehow that one missed me, and he said, well, what do you think? I said, are you kidding me? You leave me an opening like that? Kellogg's Frosted Flakes? I think that's great!